Breaking news as we come up on 6 o'clock. Just about 90 minutes ago, Portland police descended on the Occupy ICE camp in southwest Portland and evicted the last of the demonstrators there. Our live coverage continues all morning.
Plus, a deadly police shooting on the coast. We're tracking that investigation into what happened in Seaside.
And a well-known pop star rushed to the hospital. What we learned overnight about the condition of Demi Lovato.
KOIN 6 News this morning starts right now with breaking news.
Good morning. You are looking live at the scene outside the ICE facility on Southwest Macadam. This is a view from Chopper 6. Police moved in about 4:30 to evict the remaining protesters that were camped outside. We are awaiting a news conference from Portland Police Chief Danielle Outlaw. She's set to address the eviction any minute now. We'll take you there live as soon as she begins speaking. Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday, July 25th. I'm Ken Boddie.
And I'm Jenny Hansson. We will get to all those stories in just a moment. But first, that heat remains across the Willamette Valley, and it's here to stay for a few more days. Our new meteorologist, Kelly Bayern, is here with a first look at your forecast. Kelly.
Hey, good morning. Yes, we do have some watches and warnings out there, and added to that heat, we do now have that air quality alert, and that is through Thursday. So again, looking at a little movement in our atmosphere, very warm temps and not much winds out there. So we are seeing that smog kind of building up in areas. Right now, our air quality is at good levels, but down south in Oregon, they're dealing with some unhealthy levels in spots near Medford and Klamath Falls. But along with that, that heat still out there, that big span of yellow across the valley, expecting those temps to stay in the mid-90s as we head towards today. Again, those air quality levels are worse as you head down south. A quick check of our day planner for today. Beautiful skies out there this morning. Will warm up by noontime into the low 80s, and by the afternoon again back in the mid 90s. Carly, how's it looking out there?
Well, right now we have the road closures around the ICE facility. Let's show you that. That is right there on Moody. Moody's closed between Lowell and Bancroft between Macadam and Bond. But Macadam is open for those of you heading northbound into the city here. Let's take a look now at this crash that just happened on I-84 eastbound. So eastbound, most of you will be headed westbound, but it's on the eastbound side at 33rd. It involves a motorcyclist, and as ODOT zoomed in, I saw that the motorcycle was on its side on the ground, and it involved another vehicle. So you can see the emergency crews right there on I-84 eastbound with the right lane blocked at 33rd. It is causing some congestion and a little bit of slowing on the westbound side as people slow to see what's going on. And then on I-205 northbound, crews are continuing to pick up the cones here near Stafford. So there still is some northbound slowing right there at Stafford, but it picks up shortly after that. That's for construction work that was running late but is wrapping up.
Thank you, Carly. Let's get back to that Portland police sweep of the remaining protesters outside of ICE in southwest Portland.
Police Chief Danielle Outlaw just wrapped up a news conference. Elise Haas is live on the scene with more. Elise?
Well, Ken and Jenny, we haven't been able to talk to Danielle yet. I have shook her hand this morning, but she's going to be coming to talk to us to tell us a little bit more about what's going on here at the camp. So, police have been able to successfully clear out the remaining protesters at the Occupy ICE camp. And what you're looking at right now is the blocked off streets in the area. And so protesters, there's only about a handful left. It's our understanding that there are about 100 people who left the camp yesterday, but a few people stayed behind to see what happened. And around 4:30 this morning, Portland police came in, forcing protesters and the media out and down a block. So there was about, I would say, 5 to 6 protesters who were verbally arguing with officers. But other than that, it was a peaceful protest as they disengaged. So PPB has closed off several streets in the area, so folks need to be aware as they're cleaning up this camp, traffic may be impacted. So we're going to try and give you some updates about road closures, and we'll provide throughout the morning. But officers, now that they've secured the camp, contract workers will clean out the campsite. And we got a look in the campsite, and we'll give you a look at that a little bit later this morning. So again, we are waiting to hear from the police chief, and we'll bring you all of those updates on the securing of the campsite as we learn them. For now, reporting live in southwest Portland, Elise Haas, KOIN 6 News.
All right, and again, we are awaiting Portland Police Chief Danielle Outlaw to come and address this situation. Have you seen any signs of her out there yet? Has she arrived?
Yes, so she's here while we were inside the camp taking a look at what remains, which is a bunch of beds and furniture and trash and blankets. She walked up and she said that she's going to be talking to us soon, but she's still in the area talking to the remaining officers here. So we'll hear from her shortly.
Okay, thank you very much, Elise Haas, and we'll get back to you with Chief Outlaw's comments.
Well, this morning we are tracking developing news out of Clatsop County, where the sheriff's office is trying to piece together the events that led up to a deadly officer-involved shooting. Happened around 1:30 yesterday near Highway 101 on the south side of the city. Officials say they were called to an RV park after a report of a person with a gun. Well, shots were fired after officials say there was a confrontation between the suspect and police. A neighbor of the man who died said the man who was shot had 2 guns on him, but claims they were holstered minutes before the shooting.
They could have shot him in the foot or the leg or tased him. No, they had no reason to shoot him 5 times in the chest. That's ridiculous. You don't do that. This is really tragic.
Well, we're told police were originally called for a dog attack that seriously injured another neighbor. According to the neighbor, the man who died threatened to shoot the dogs if the owner did not remove them from the property. The Clatsop County Major Crime Team is leading the investigation. The name of the victim has not been released.
The federal trial for an FBI agent accused of obstructing justice is underway. Prosecutors say 41-year-old Joseph Astorita tried to cover up, firing 2 shots at Malheur Takeover spokesperson Lavoy Finicum. Astorita says he did not do it. Video taken from inside the truck Finicum was driving showed that shots were fired as he exited the vehicle. Investigators concluded 1 bullet from Astorita's gun hit the roof of Finicum's pickup. The other shot went astray. The trial is expected to last for several weeks.
A man is accused of kidnapping a hotel housekeeper. Investigators say William English was armed with a knife when he confronted the woman in a hotel near PDX as she was cleaning a bathroom. A court document show he threatened to stab her if she did not do what he said. At one point, that victim was able to call for help. Port of Portland police found English in a hotel room with a knife. We have a new update this morning on the Hart family investigation.
The Mendocino County Sheriff's Office in California says tests on remains found in May are inconclusive. 4 siblings and their mother were found dead following a crash off a Northern California cliff in late March. 2 more children, Hannah and Devontae Hart, are still technically missing. In May, a resident found a girl's pair of pants and a shoe containing remains of a foot. Those remains were believed to belong to Hannah Hart. Now the results of a DNA analysis show the identity cannot be conclusively determined. The Mendocino Sheriff's Office is seeking to unseal adoption records to find the children's birth relatives. The crash is still under investigation as a crime. And now let's go right back out to Southwest Macadam Avenue and the ICE facility where Portland Police Chief Danielle Outlaw is speaking right now.
LAW?
Chief Danielle Outlaw.
Yes. All right, so thank you all for coming. I know it's short notice, but I just want to give you a quick update on what happened, what occurred this morning, and some decisions that were made over the past week. For any additional details, I will be happy to turn it over to Sergeant Burley, but we'll be able to answer a few questions for you after. So last week, this all began, we're here about the Occupy ICE encampment, and we believe that it really got established and started up and running about June 17th, 2018. And last week, for a variety of reasons, the Portland Police Bureau determined that the conditions down here were no longer sustainable for a few reasons. We received, over a period of time, approximately 76 calls for service. Of those, about 41 were dispatch calls, meaning where officers actually responded down here. The remainder of those were handled either over the telephone or by other means for follow-up investigation. We also received at least 13 online complaints regarding the conditions at the camp or behaviors associated to members at the camp that have impacted the safety for livability of people, not just in this immediate area, but in the South Waterfront area. A little bit about this area, specifically this street and these roadways. It provides very critical access to the medical facilities that are down here, specifically critical care for cancer patients. Same thing with the need to provide supplies to OHSU down here, and there are multiple medical facilities in the area that call on ambulances and paramedics to transport patients during emergency medical situations. After I brought all of this attention to the mayor, he was fully supportive of moving forward to begin plans to clear the camp, and that was last week. With all of that said, this morning we decided to move ahead with the clearing of the camp, and at approximately 4:15, we brought several officers here to make sure that we had the ability to strategically and methodically move through and clear out the camp in a very safe way for everyone. And it's a good thing because not only did we, because of the posting, I think, it allowed people to self-select and disengage from the camp on their own. So by the time that we arrived here this morning, there were really only about 12 people that we encountered and had to ask to leave the camp. For the most part, everything was done with very little incident, the clearing of the camp itself. There were no arrests made, there were no citations issued, and it was only after the camp was cleared. We are now looking into reports of a use of a baton by one of our officers to pull apart or push apart people that were about to be actively engaged in some sort of physical altercation. We will look further into that. Right now, as far as road closures, Southwest Bancroft Street, Southwest Moody Avenue, and Southwest Lowell Avenue will remain closed for a portion of this morning as the cleanup continues, and we will do our very best to push out that information so those in the area are notified when the roads open and how they can safely get in and out of the area. Any questions that I can do my best to answer right now?
Give us an idea of the nature of the complaints that you got that you decided to bring to the mayor's attention.
Yeah, so, you know, and interestingly enough, a lot of the detail came from what was reported in the media. And we found ourselves going back after to find out, to contact the reporting parties or those who had been deemed victims to get a little bit more information. A lot of information given to us regarding assaults or threats, intimidation, harassment. And then obviously what I didn't mention, but which is a very big issue in there, there are a lot of biohazard concerns as well. So safety-wise, public safety-wise, not just, you know, when you think about public safety, a lot of folks think about law enforcement, the police side of it, but there's fire hazards in there. There are also biomedical hazards in there. And because of those sorts of complaints, again, we knew we had to get ahead of it before it spiraled out of control.
Chief, did you have a pretty good sense of what you were getting into this morning in terms of how many people were in there and what you should expect, and what were your concerns based on that?
We did. I will say, because of the communication that had been going on between the city and those involved in the demonstration from day one, I think that was very, very helpful with allowing folks to pack up and leave on their own. And then also there was a lot of communication back and forth, and we did everything we could to put people on notice so there were no surprises and there were no allegations of us coming in and they didn't know anything about it, they were unprepared, so on and so forth. So I think that communication really, really helped this come to a really peaceful solution in the end.
And can you tell us about the cleanup? So we just went inside and there's a lot of debris and things still left inside. So can you just tell us, you know, is the city going to be taking care of it? Is it going to be contracted out? And when will it start?
So for the most part, I think it's a little bit after 6 now. So we expect the cleanup in general to begin at around 8 o'clock. And it's done by those contracted out by the individual owners of the properties. Yeah.
Chief,
so
what was your first impression the first time you actually saw the camp? And would you ask the mayor to not let this kind of thing happen for this length of time again?
Well, I leave the politics to the politicians. Obviously, I provide and offer advice based off of the safety element, anything that has to do with our realm. There's so many different entities and stakeholders that contribute to the discussion that's had around these encampments. My thoughts were, I don't even know if it was a word when I walked in there, but there's clearly some unsafe conditions there. And as I stated before, the longer those sorts of conditions exist, the more difficult it is to go in and clear those up in the end. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anything for Sergeant?
That was Portland Police Chief Danielle Outlaw outlining her rationale for bringing in officers to clear out the remaining demonstrators at that Occupy ICE camp off of Southwest Macadam. She made a couple of important points. Number one, that the conditions there were just getting to be unsustainable, was her word.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And also the fact that that is part of, South Waterfront is part of the OHSU campus.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people go to the cancer center down there, and the whole demonstration was obstructing their access to get to that facility.
Right, and she mentioned they're going to start cleaning up about 8 a.m. this morning because there's still a lot of debris and she called hazardous materials in that camp area. But she said as far as the eviction, there were about 12 people remaining this morning, and it went fairly peaceful. She said they did give them a heads up, so she thinks that that helped a lot.
Right, and those areas, and Carly will get to this later, but those areas will still be closed during the cleanup, and she'll let you know exactly which streets will remain closed and for how long. We'll be right back.